Great. So welcome. You are in the Cali District Innovation Hub webinar series. Cali is the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, and we are hosting monthly webinars to showcase best practices and new ideas coming out of districts across California. Today, our topic is connecting student learning to campus sustainability through energy projects for career readiness, focusing on a project that's happening in Porterville Unified School District in the Central Valley, and really excited to bring these presenters to you today. We follow a pretty standard agenda in these webinars. First couple minutes we'll have welcome and connections and a little bit of background about Cali and the District Innovation Hub. The bulk of our time we'll hear from Porterville Unified School District and the interesting and promising practices that they have developed. We'll spend a little bit of time towards the top of the hour with some Q&A and whole group discussion, and we'll have a hard close around 5 o'clock. So if you've dedicated an hour and you need to go, feel free at 5 if you've got to skip out. But we do keep the whole session open until 5:30 for some deeper conversation, some more interaction, some more intimate Q&A between participants and the presenters, or for discussion among the presenters. So we'll organize some breakout rooms during the session based on interest that we're seeing in the chat and in a Jamboard that we'll share with you in a minute. So we like to start these off with a moment of connection, and a good place to start is by having me introduce myself. I'm Nate Ivey. I'm an instructional coach in the Fremont Unified School District, and I'm lucky to be the co-chair of the District Innovation Hub. Joined today by a lot of folks from the Cali initiative, and also by my co-chair in the District Innovation Hub, Tim Baird, who you can probably see in your Zoom windows. We do like to get a sense of where everybody is joining us from. So in the chat, you'll see a link to a Padlet. If you don't mind taking a minute to open that up, when the Padlet opens, you'll see a pink plus button in the lower right-hand corner. You can click that and then, add a marker to the map to show where you're joining from. And on that marker, you can even say a little bit about yourself and some of the work you do. It helps us kind of get a sense of who's interested in coming to these. And one of our goals in Cali and in the District Innovation Hub is to build a community of practitioners among the state. And this is a place to, find and make some connections and, see who's in your neighborhood. So take a minute, open that up. And as you get that open, I'm going to introduce the next part and have you multitask a little bit. So you'll be entering into the Padlet. And we're also going to invite you into a small breakout room with, 2 or 3 other people. We encourage you to share your name, your organization, and your role. Just it's, working on this topic and, tackling all the environmental challenges can often feel daunting. And when we build the connections and the relationships among ourselves, we have a stronger ecosystem for this work. So we do want to build those connections. So your name, your role, your organization, where you're located. And then the focus question for this is, in what ways do you integrate sustainability or climate action into curriculum or your career technical education programs? Or if you're a supporter or education provider, nonprofit that supports schools, what are you doing to help schools tackle that? So Amy's going to open up some breakout rooms, about 5 minutes to discuss this. How are you integrating sustainability or climate education? So great, join those rooms and we'll see you back here in 4 or 5 minutes.
Hi, Jermaine.
Hi. Yeah.
I think I just flung you into room 3.
I know we got a couple of people back from the breakout rooms. The breakout rooms still have a couple of seconds till they fully close. So I'm going to hedge for just a moment while we wait for them to send everybody back to this main room.
Hi there, John. Hi, Mark. No worries if you can't be on screen, but it's nice to have you guys here. Hi, Alexa.
Good to see you too.
Hey, Amy, I pushed the wrong button. I'm in transit, so
I'll be with you all visually at some point.
All right, hey, great. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to see you back. I hope you made a good connection and met someone from around the state and built a little bit of a relationship there. So let's move on and get into a little bit of background on Cali. I think many of you might be familiar with the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, but if not, Cali's goal is to help ensure that every student in California has access to high quality environmental literacy learning opportunities. The way we advance that is trying to support, schools and teachers and students across the state through a variety of hubs. Community-based partners, providers who might work with schools, county offices of education that might support school districts and teachers, districts themselves. We have a hub focused on equity to make sure that we are, closing the gap and getting these services to communities that maybe need them most or have been overlooked. We have a green career education pathway, which ties really closely to today's webinar. We're also interested in policy and advocacy to make sure the system supports this type of work and that professional learning for teachers and others in the system to make sure they're prepared to support students in this initiative. In the District Innovation Hub, we're trying to build this community of practitioners, share resources, build capacity in districts, share examples from leading edge districts, and help basically connect people. So these webinars are really good context for meeting many of these goals, but especially for sharing and showcasing a leading edge exemplar, someone who's out ahead of the pack and charting new territory. In all of this work on the district side, we want to move from kind of accidental or packets or pockets of excellence within schools or districts to think about how entire systems can work to support all of the schools, all of the teachers, all of the students. There's a number of systems frameworks related to schools that are useful to think about: the Green Ribbon Schools approach, the San Mateo County 4Cs, Campus Curriculum, Community and Culture, and the Green Schools National Network framework up there in the upper right-hand corner. So in any of these, we want to be thinking about systemic implementations and how to arrive at systemic implementations. Throughout the webinar today, we do encourage you to interact in two ways. One of them is through a Jamboard, which is organized into these 6 categories, which will correspond largely to how the webinar is presented today. It's a place to organize your thinking, a place to write some notes, a place to ask some questions, a place to think about how this might work in your context. We do also encourage you to use the chat to ask questions or to highlight or respond to something you hear in the webinar. So the link to the Jamboard should be in the chat. I encourage you to open that up and have that available as we move forward. So let's cut to the chase and get to the heart of the work here. We're real excited to have Porterville Unified School District and their partner Climate Action Pathways for Schools. The topic today is really timely. Just last month, there was a really great report and webinar thinking about climate resilient schools and the importance of schools in meeting our climate challenges. That effort was, through Stanford, Berkeley, Undaunted K-12, and 10 strands. And it really highlights the role to which schools will be key in meeting our climate goals. Today, Porterville is going to talk about how students can help schools achieve these climate goals and also prepare themselves for college, career, and life to come. To lead us in that effort, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Garvin from Porterville Unified School District and Kirk-Ann Taylor from Climate Action Pathways for Schools to introduce themselves and lead us through today's session. Jen, Kirk-Ann.
Well, hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'm Kirk-Ann Taylor, Executive Director for Climate Action Pathways for Schools, and we're really excited to share a bit about the partnership that we've been working on for the last several years. Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jen Garvin. I'm the Energy and Sustainability Program Manager at the Porterville Unified School District. I'm technically employed by CAPS, but they have kind of contracted me out specifically to PUSD to run all of our programming there.
Excellent. So we're going to share with you, as Nate said a few minutes ago, kind of a case study on the work that we have been doing together, Climate Action Pathways for Schools and Porterville Unified over the past several years. Our work really does connect to several of the pillars that Nate discussed. We're trying to take a whole systems approach to climate action within a school district. And Porterville has been leading the way by integrating this climate action planning into operations as well as into career pathways. So we're going to unpack that a little bit for you. You'll get to hear from both me from the perspective of a nonprofit sort of informal education provider that's working with the school district, as well as Jen from her role within the district. And we've also got some of the student videos, although we couldn't have anyone here in person, they did pre-record a video, so you'll get to hear a little bit about their work and from their perspective as well today. Thank you. Nate, you can go on to the next slide, please. And actually we can even fast forward one more. And one more. Okay, so I'll just give a brief background about Climate Action Pathways for Schools. We're a California-based nonprofit organization. We're a fairly new and young organization. We were started in 2019, and I joined the organization a little over a year ago. We're based in Oakland, but we work throughout the state of California. And our goal is really to partner with school districts to activate student-led climate action. And to do that in a way that helps prepare students for college and their future careers, but also has a real impact in the local school community. So we really are bringing together the culture, the community, and curriculum through this work. With any of the school districts that we work with, we have several explicit goals. One is to have them help them save money through implementing energy conservation measures. This could be through areas like buildings decarbonization, through looking at food systems and waste, through looking at their transportation, and even looking at grounds and facilities. And we help them document and take active measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And all of this work is led through the work that Jen and others, students in the community are leading in partnership with the school district operations and facilities, as well as with their school campus and the broader community. So next slide. So just to give you a little bit more background, Porterville was the first school district that CAPS started to work with. And so we really have innovated together and created a program that's fit within the context of Porterville. For those of you who may not be familiar with the district, Porterville is located in Tulare County. And it's a K-12 district with 22 schools. When we started, the district had about 1.8 million in annual energy costs from their buildings across the district. And they have about an 81% unduplicated pupil count. Porterville is also located in the Central Valley, and it's next to Sequoia National Park. And it also does have, unfortunately, some air quality issues associated with pollution, and the community is burdened by the impacts of climate change. Disproportionately to other communities in the state. And you can see this through the Cal Enviro screen mapping here. And so part of the work with Porterville is to help address climate change and also make sure that the work that we're doing there not only helps the local community, but is really providing also pathways to meaningful careers for the community and for students in the community as well. Next slide, please. So I'll just kind of summarize and say just over the last 3 years, the results of our program, you can see here on the slide, and these numbers are updated from what you may have seen in the little blurb that came out in advance of this webinar. We just have 3-year data now. So in the past 3 years, we've been able to help reduce the district's greenhouse gas emissions by 21%, and Jen will talk a little bit more about that. We've also provided paid internship for high school students now up to 27 students. And these students worked with us over the course of 2 years. They typically come in at the end of their sophomore year and stay with us all the way through to their senior year. And then we're starting to form an alumni network where we stay connected as they move on to the next steps in their career. And as a result of this work, the school district itself has saved over $911,000 in energy cost savings. And as a partner, we've been able to work with the school district to leverage state and federal investments in workforce development, in climate and infrastructure. And because of that, we've been able to raise over $9.3 million for the district to support this work. So not only the work of the student interns, but also the infrastructure projects that that the students in the district are working on together. And I'll just say before we move on that this is a really good time to be doing this work. And there are new investments with the Inflation Reduction Act and others that you can take advantage of. We have a slide at the end of this webinar that has some QR codes that link to some of those potential funding sources. So we'll be happy to share that out and talk a little bit more about that. But what we have found is this work leads to further investment. We started with one building energy program and have now moved into working in multiple different areas of sustainability across the district and have been able to leverage funding to support that advancement of that work. As you all, I'm sure, are familiar, our public schools are one of the largest sources of public infrastructure in our state. And so we have a real opportunity if we can make a difference in our school systems at reaching our climate goals, but also doing it in a way that provides really high quality learning opportunities for students at the same time that can lead to high paying careers in their future as well. So with that, I will quit talking now and pass it over to you, Jen, to share a little bit more about the details of the great work that's happening in Porterville. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm going to talk a little bit about what our student experience is, what it is our students are actually doing on a day-to-day basis, and how that fits into the educational framework that Porterville employs. So if you go to the next slide. So just to give you some context on what kind of district Porterville Unified is, Porterville is a district that uses the linked learning model and has 14 different pathways that students can self-select into throughout their district. It's, there's no sort of application process. You just join whatever pathway you want to be a part of. And even if it's not your zoned high school, they allow you to transfer amongst the district and take whatever self-selected pathway you've chosen. So they have 14 different pathways, the majority of which are nationally recognized by NAF. And they do use it as a kind of test facility and not test facility, but showcase facility where folks from around the country come and visit and learn about what it is to run really robust CTE pathways. They have a plethora of options for students to explore what it means to not only have a professional outcome in your pathway, but also to build soft skills, industry certifications, dual enrollments, and ensure that all of their students, when they graduate, can go straight into a career or onto a 4 or 2-year institution. So throughout their 4 years in high school, there are 4 work-based learning non-negotiables. So each year, students get exposed to different professional development as they grow. This includes a professional conference, internships, as well as interviews with the wide range of industry partners that work with teachers and students. Next slide. So we fit into this model in that we provide internships that are paid to students within each pathway. So it starts in the same way that you would apply for any job. Students fill out an application form And based on a number of criteria, they're either selected or not to do an interview process. Myself and one of our veteran students will interview all of the applicants and decide, help me, see who should be selected into the program. I think students learn a lot about what makes a good interview when you're on the other side of that panel. And then once students are selected and apply and all set, they take part in our summer work. Students are recruited in their spring semester right around spring break, so they know that they're going to have some sort of employment opportunity that summer. During the summer, we do 5 weeks of work. 1 week is a training week, where we have our veteran students mentor and teach the new students about all of the different projects that CAPS does within Porterville, and gets them really ready for all of the technical skills that they'll need to learn and technical terms that they'll need to know throughout the rest of the time within the program. After that initial training week, they work with me for an additional 96 hours to get really prepped with all of their projects. They have me, our engineer, and a lot of support during the summer so that they are fully vested and fully know what they're going to be doing for the next school year. During the school year, I continue to work with the students. I meet with them once a week on campus, and during that time, we'll talk about what's due for the next week. If there's the opportunity to ask questions, talk about what it is we're doing, I'll share out information on how their projects have unfolded, not during our, they do some work for me and then I'll take it to the district, and it may have some additional outcomes. So I'll share out outcomes of what has happened to their work. And in general, we ask that students work about 2 to 4 hours a week on our program. They'll hit the higher mark if we do some sort of weekend event or community outreach. Students will stay with me for a maximum of 3 summers or 2 school years. And once we've had a plethora of students go to really, really great colleges and great opportunities post our time with the program. And on average, students will do about 170 hours with us throughout their 2 to 3 years. Next slide. So now you'll get to hear a little bit directly from our students on what the program has meant to them and what they've been working on.
Hello, my name is Sofia Fernandez and I am in the Environmental Science Academy. I work with the Porterville Unified School District Energy and Sustainability Program. Here at our program, we work together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across our entire school district. I am in one of the various pathways within our school district, and today, me and my colleagues are going to talk about our past and ongoing projects and how it relates to energy consumption and how it has prepared us for the future.
My current project is an eco project. Inside of that project, we have different sectors where we monitor the electricity, the thermal usage, and also the solar production at the different sites, so that we can keep track of how much electricity we use and also how much we produce to help maximize the amount of energy that we use, so that we have less billings and also help the environment in the process.
Some of the skills I've gained while working on these projects would have to be time management skills, especially when I'm giving a certain deadline. I have to be able to organize everything so I complete everything on time. Also, collaborative and team management skills, especially when working with the other interns. I have to be able to input my own ideas so we could all go through the challenges together and we could come to an agreement by the end for a certain project.
My projects have affected my future career because I already have experience in doing research. So like collecting data from the surveys or going out and doing walk audits. I already have an edge over other people in my career in the future if I have to do research.
Okay, so one of our main projects is the energy conservation competition between all of the schools in the district. And this project helps schools become aware of the energy usage that they have and helps them lower their usage.
We have achieved many great things within our program. Not only have we helped our school district and our community, we have learned useful skills that we can use in future careers. Until then, this is Sofia Fernandez, and we hope to see you working with us soon.
So that was filmed and produced entirely by our students. They kind of run with it and do whatever they like with it, which is really nice. If you can go to the next slide. So our program started small. We started out with 3 students from the Academy of Engineering and focused very heavily on projects related to buildings, as within the school district world. That's kind of the largest greenhouse gas emitting sector for us. We now work with over 15 students from 5 different pathways instead of just the engineering students. And we have offered other part-time or short span internships to multiple other pathways. And we're hoping to one day grow into even more, since pretty much sustainability is such an interesting interdisciplinary field. It has the opportunity that we can create projects and create internships within a variety of different pathways at Porterville. And I know from our work-based learning team, they have really loved our internship model because it is cross pathway. Most of the time, a lot of students are working very siloed within their different pathways and their different internships. And this one forces kids to collaborate and meet others from different high schools, different pathways, different skill strengths and skills, and it models, a real employment situation where, you're working on a project and maybe you need to talk to someone in marketing, or you need to speak to someone in the business office. And, you have to, be able to talk someone else's language and be able to facilitate project work across departments. Next slide. So we make sure that all of the projects that we design and work with the district on directly relate to what students are learning in the classroom. So our 4 main pathways that we're currently working with are the Environmental Science Academy, the Multimedia and Technology Academy, the Academy of Engineering, and the Academy for Careers and Education. And so we make sure that everything matches in with what the strengths of that pathway are. So our environmental science students do a lot related to sustainable behavior changes in convincing families to use more public transportation, the bus system, active transportation to get to school, as well as zero waste behaviors. They also do projects related to plant and water science. And so water and water conservation is a huge issue within the Central Valley and the agriculture community. Tulare County is slated to have some of the worst projections in terms of water storage of the aquifer and the effects of climate change. So it's been a really important project for them and for us. Our Academy of Engineering students work primarily on building decarbonization and our electric fleet. So they're working with us to do a lot of HVAC retrofit works, ASHRAE audits, and they do energy presentations for our staff. They help me track all of the district's energy across the 22 sites, and they are going and talking to staff and principals and admin about ways that teachers can reduce their energy usage in the classroom and motivate them to participate in our energy competition where they can win funds for their school. And then our Academy for Careers and Education students are doing environmental education. They're going into elementary school classrooms and talking about anti-littering and talking about active transportation and how to be safe as someone who rides a bike on the street, and the importance of wearing your helmet and all sorts of things along those ends. Next slide. And so one of the key parts of our program is not just having the students do the work on our projects, it's also helping them to be better professionals, which isn't just learning those technical skills. So that includes the soft skills of communicating clearly. We provide our students draft and create reports that get sent to our business office and that we use and share out to the broader community. So they need to make sure that those reports are pretty, the information in there makes sense, it's written well, it's easy to understand. And we also do a lot of presenting. All of our students, regardless of what pathway they're in, are making presentations constantly. We present to the board, we present to all the principals in the district. The school district has what they call the P8 Coalition, which is a group of local business partners, and those folks work with the superintendents as well as teachers to ensure that pathways fit with industry standards. They're constantly presenting to different business groups and folks within the community. And it's also the first time for many students that they're asked to dress professionally and figuring out what that means. And then there's also, those hard skills or those technical skills that our students are learning. Since a lot of our work involves buildings, it means reading mechanical drawings for the first time and just how intricate and all the little lines on there that they need to figure out. And they're always baffled of why it's not all electronic now, but a lot of sustainability is going to be reading those old schematics that are all paper copies, pre-scanning them all into a computer. And a lot of our work uses Excel. We do survey analysis, energy analysis, just working constantly in Excel, analyzing waste data. And I teach them, how to use Excel, how to use those formulas, how to make things easier for yourself in Excel, because there's always an easier way to do it. And it's been super, super helpful for our kids, not only if they want to manage their own finances in the future, but having any sort of major in college related to STEM. We've had kids who have come back for reunions and are talking about their chemistry 101 classes, and they're in labs and they have to use Excel, and they were teaching the other students how to use it because no one else knew how to do anything. So it's been very helpful and nice to hear from all of our students that Excel is such a really important tool that they've learned and used post our internship. And then, as I mentioned, they're drafting reports. They're figuring out what those professional reporting skills and what a professional report looks like. What does the graphics look like? How do you make a graph? And then a core tenet of our program is to do leadership and mentorship. So we'll have students who start with us, especially closer to re-entering in from the pandemic, who were kind of shyer. The pandemic did a number on these kids, and teaching them how to come out of their shell and be leaders and teach the younger students how to succeed in the program. Next slide. And so we want to make sure that students aren't just doing projects that are going to go and sit on a shelf somewhere and not have any sort of impact. Everything that they're doing is providing information to the district and to our business partners, that's going to have real world results and real world impacts on their district and on their community. And so we want to make sure that whatever they're doing is going to be worthwhile. And I think that's had a big impact on the way kids have seen their futures. We've had multiple students adjust their career trajectories and what major they want to do post high school based on our program. We had someone who was very interested in IT and knew that he wanted to go into IT, but that's a large field, and now wants to try and make data centers more sustainable. We've had folks who were set on going into NASA, and now he really wants to build whatever Iron Man has in his chest, and is going to MIT to do some nuclear engineering. And it's been really helpful for our kids to have that social connection after the pandemic. Most of them were cooped up. It did a number on these kids socially and with their communication skills. And we had some students, especially the students who came in right as things were opening up, that they hadn't actually been to their high school yet. And so this made them feel much more comfortable going into high school for the first time as juniors, because they had friends now. They had people that they knew at the high school that they could connect with. Pretty much all of our students want to pursue some sort of STEM field post high school, whether that be wanting to be a math teacher or wanting to go into medicine. They all want to do something STEM related, which is really great and love to see it. And then Some of them, I've seen their professional skills greatly improve, not only just in dress, but part of it is also teaching them how to write professional emails. I've seen them go from writing the entire content of the email in the subject line to actually now sending a professional email to me, which is great. Love to see it. Next slide, please. And we get great results and feedback from our operations and non-student body working with them as well. So our district is very dedicated to its pathways model. About 70, I believe, to 75% of students within our district are part of a pathway. They're very dedicated to this, they're dedicated to this model, and are very grateful in our ability to offer them a work-based learning opportunity for their students. We also provide support on writing grant applications. And we had someone from student nutrition say, I wouldn't have been able to get this grant without us. And, grateful for those cost savings. And we've been able to provide support, and our students have been able to provide support to our facilities staff. Students let me know the second a solar system goes offline. And so I and my students may find out faster than some of the folks in facilities when something goes down, and we can get someone out there a lot faster to get it fixed instead of noticing like 2 months from now when you see the bill. And so we've been able to have a really big impact, not only for our students, but just for the district. And a lot of the work students will be doing directly relates to the work facility will then be working on later down the line. And next slide, please. And so where this relates to facilities is that the information that students gather related to the HVAC systems that are on every site and doing an HVAC inventory of the entire district, or doing a lighting inventory of all the lights in a certain high school. It then gets provided to facilities as part of requests for proposals and RFP and construction upgrades. We had a student who did a lighting retrofit at one of our high schools, and all of his information was provided to a contractor, and that contractor then did an LED light retrofit. And so students really get to see all of their work go into really rewarding and really interesting and new things within the district. And, schools are, especially ours, are often underfunded. And if they win our energy competition, they get some raw dollars that they get to use on whatever they want to use. And so we've had some schools be very grateful that they get to continue certain programs that they wouldn't have had the funding to do otherwise. And it's great when I take my students to our boardroom, which is the background on my little Zoom right here. Our students have taken over the board chair seats. And, you take the kids and they present about everything that they're doing, and you're asking the board for feedback on what they think about the project. And instead of giving you any feedback, they're like, that was great. And they just compliment your students the entire time because they're such good presenters. And they tell you, that's like a Fortune 500 presentation you just gave there. And so they feel much more confident in their presenting abilities leaving that room. And then they're also getting really involved with the community. All of our students, regardless of pathway, are involved in community outreach and talking to folks in their community about what they want to see related to sustainable development. And so every year we organize a bike rodeo event where young children will come out and do a bike obstacle course and learn about how to bike safely in Porterville. Then I believe that is my last slide, but I go to the next one and yes. So thank you for having me. I hope that our internship model and experience was interesting and exciting for you. And I am happy with Kirkan and myself to, I don't know if the next part is answering any questions.
Great. Thanks, Jen. What I'd like to do before we jump into questions, just give people a moment to pause, go back into the Jamboard, and maybe capture a note or two, or an idea or a question. So I see we've got at least one question in the Jamboard, but I do want to give people just a moment to think, jot some notes, and then we'll get into a little bit of Q&A. All right, I see some people writing in the Jamboard. Please continue to add those notes, but as you're getting those thoughts down, we'll jump into one question. I think it was discussed a little bit, but how many students have gone through CAPS? And for those students who head to college, are most of them majoring in STEM now? And kind of what results or what have you heard back from students as they've gone into college or into career?
Yeah. So we've had I believe just under 30, including our current cohort, go through the program. I think the exact number is about 27. And our students go through a wide range of what they want to do. A lot of them do go into some form of engineering, whether that be chemical, mechanical, civil. One's very interested in green buildings. Had a couple who are interested in medicine. And then the kind of earth science STEM fields as well, environmental science, ecological restoration, and biology, microbiology, and ecology in that sort of sense. The folks that are less STEM field, we have someone who really wants to go into film. So they were the person who did all the film editing for us in that video. So they're very interested in doing the whole Hollywood thing. We did have one go into the military, and one is interested in social work.
Great.
I believe there was one with public policy too.
Yes, but then I think she switched. So now she's in environmental science.
Transferable skills.
Yes.
So I know your project focuses on connecting students to work-based opportunities within the district and thinking of district operations. There's a question here kind of in the industry partner stakeholders, kind of thinking about the location of Porterville and, being in the Central Valley, and just a curiosity or a question about pathways that might be directed toward agriculture, ag science, or related pathways.
Yeah, so that is one that's new for us to start in, but we do have a pathway called Emerging Agriculture Technology, aptly acronymed EAT. And so they just got a whole new facility. It's really great. But yes, we are planning to work with them, and we've started a scope of work and a project related to sustainable agriculture and getting more local food into student lunches. And so that campus has a massive farm and hydroponic center, and there's a grow one with the lights. And so we're going to have that student facilitate student nutrition, buying more of their food.
Great. I'd put in the chat just kind of our district is moving towards electrifying our transportation fleet, our buses, but also thinking ahead to electrifying like our delivery vehicles, our maintenance trucks, our lawnmowers, all of those things. And it's going to be such a transformation, and there's going to be such incredible learning opportunities. I'm on the curriculum side of the district, curriculum and instruction and supporting teachers. And I don't, I've met the director of transportation. He seems like a great guy, but I don't even know the first place to start on how to bridge that. So could you talk through in Porterville, how did you make the case on the facilities and operations, child nutrition services side? Was there kind of a mandate from the board or the superintendent, or was it a on the ground campaign making introductions? To what degree do, folks in the business services side know teachers? Can you just talk through how that happened?
Yeah.
And any advice you have for any of us who are like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How do we even start?
So luckily, I think our district is, since they started the Pathways model in 2008, they really like being pioneers. And so there's always been this talk of continuous improvement, wanting to try new things, wanting to be on the cusp of, technologies. And so when we were hearing from folks about electric buses, we do currently have 6 electric buses that we got through a grant. And so it was the dollar savings were definitely a benefit, because our transportation diesel costs are just so high right now that we can save somewhere between like 50 and 80% per mile switching to electric. So that was the financial side to it of, figuring out. There has been a lot of hiccups. I won't say it's been a smooth transition for our transportation folks. But definitely starting small, since it's definitely a transition for the technicians, figuring out that they can't touch the majority of the bus. The range options, I would definitely recommend working with some sort of consulting firm on figuring out, you know, how many of our district is really, really large geographically, and figuring out the routes and, you know, what works in your context. But our drivers really love them. I mean, we're in the Central Valley, it's wicked hot, and those buses are air conditioned, which they love. And they have seatbelts, they're newer. All of our buses are really, really old. And so that was another plus for us. There's a lot of money out there for electric school buses right now, in that, you know, most of our buses are way past their recommended time period. And so it was, you know, there's money out there for new buses. We need new buses. We'll save a lot of money on fuel. That was the kind of business part. And then as we have them, we realize there's a huge gap in the market of EV technicians. We were having a lot of trouble with our buses. They were breaking down, and we would have to wait for them to fly someone out from North Carolina to have them maintained. And so there was this very cool partnership that started for us between the local community college. We have, weirdly enough, a massive EV supplier in Porterville that makes electric vehicles. And so PUSD, our community college, and this company called Zero Knox worked together to create an EV technician course. So our students, through one of our pathways, are going to be able to get dual enrollment courses through the community college in EV technicians. And if they're interested in it, they can then take the next subset of the full course, because there's more that they can learn past the technician level to a technologist, if they so desire, when they graduate. And so it was this really organic, natural partnership where everyone wanted the same thing. We all just got in a room together and kind of worked it out. And so they're starting that course this fall.
That's great. Thank you so much. So there's a few more topics in the Jamboard. I'll mention them kind of as a bridge to what we might do in the breakout rooms. You know, one topic is our district has solar panels at all the schools, but not, you know, the person's not aware of any curriculum that helps students know about that. And I think we're going to see these kinds of investments happening in our facilities, and it seems like a really amazing opportunity to learn. So how do we make sure that we get educational and environmental value out of that? Similarly, you know, an idea or just a desire that all county offices of education need to think about this model and find ways to support and expand it. And on the nonprofit side, you know, someone who's really interested in trying to figure out how to support their schools in this, and Kirk-Ann, that might be a question you'd be in a position to address as we get into breakout rooms. So let me go back to sharing my screen. And I want to invite Jen and Kirk-Ann. You had this slide in kind of to wrap up the session. So I'm hoping you can just kind of talk through this framework and how we might think about it.
Yes, we were thinking this sort of aligns to some of the project areas of the Jamboard, and one way we were thinking we might break out would be to just have kind of conversations about what might work within your context, or what are some of the ideas for starting small. And you know, you might have an issue that a climate action concern like air quality that you wanted to address, and you could kind of map out some of the partners, some of the connections to your career, et cetera. But it sounds like we've got some other organic questions that are bubbling up. And so we could either just take that into the small groups if you want to do that, or because we're a small group, we might be able to just stay in one room and just talk through them together.
Great. And I really appreciate this kind of graphic organizer because I think whatever your context is, one of these squares is going to call your attention as kind of a burning issue place where you're going to have some immediate ideas to kind of jot down, and then you can kind of expand out and think of how you fill in the rest of your bingo card with the rest of this program. So thank you so much for sharing this organizer.
Yeah, and I think the
Um,
recurring story is start small with who you got and more will come. Just take the next step. And, I think Jen just illustrated one example of that with the EV story, but there's been many other iterations of that we've seen in this work.
Great. And I know while you had us in our kind of formal part of the webinar here and are, closing out the formal time, you wanted to share some resources. So you want to kind of speak through what you're sharing here?
Yes. So I did want to just mention that just in case you haven't seen it, CSBA a year or so ago created this climate change task force report. And there are some great resources there, sample board resolutions and policies that you might want to look at if you're looking to, get something going on the board level at your school district that could help provide a background for this work and more support and raise awareness for it. So definitely recommend checking that out. There's also a list of some funding opportunities and also tools for local boards on that resource. So I highly recommend checking it out. And if you go to the next page or next slide, we also put in here some links to places where you can look for funding opportunities. We mentioned at the beginning that we've been able to help Porterville Unified raise over $9 million. And some of those are through resources that are here. Most of the money that we have raised in Porterville has been prior to the Inflation Reduction Act. It's been California funding. But over this last year, we've also started seeking Inflation Reduction Act funding sources. And so just specifically, we've been able to get some funding from from CalShape, from the Clean Energy Commission, from Farm to School as another funding source, the Strategic Growth Council Transformative Climate Communities Grant. We were able to get one of those grants. We've got an active transportation grant from blanking on the name of that one right now, but there is funding out there to do this work, and there are creative ways to blend in the workforce development components of the work as well. So hopefully these resources will be good links, and we're members of Cali, so we'll continue to try to put in base camp opportunities as we see them as well.
Great. And for people who are screenshotting or scanning these QR codes, trying to open all the links, Callie will share with you both a recording of this session and the slide deck in a day or two. So don't feel like you have to capture everything here. It'll arrive in your inbox shortly. So just thank you, Kirk-Ann and Jen, so much for sharing this inspiring story of Porterville. Gives us a lot of hope, gives us a sense of possibility, and has just added many things to my to-do list of things I would like to accomplish in my district as well. So thank you so much for joining us. So let me turn it over to Amy Frame with a couple of closing announcements for the formal part of the webinar, and then we'll see what people want to do. If people want to get into some smaller conversations, or if folks want to stick around and have kind of a looser conversation in a whole group. So Amy?
This is going to be so fast. All right. In the chat, you will see the meeting feedback and suggestion link. We have gotten some great ideas for future webinars in this series. So please do tell us what you like and what you'd like to see. Next slide.
Just in addition to what you'd like to see, if you have something that's amazing that you would love to share, also report that in this. I'd like to see a webinar about this amazing thing I'm doing, and nominate yourself to do that. And we'd love to schedule you to share your story as well.
Absolutely. I just took that as a given, but I guess that's some weird narcissistic thing that I have or something. I don't know. Secondly, the Green Career Innovation Hub of Cali is still conducting a survey as part of our roadmap to our green economy project. And we're just trying to hear about more projects like this that should be on our radar that really do set a great example for what kinds of things we should be doing across the state. So please do answer that survey and share it out with your colleagues if you can. Next slide. I would like to remind you that we are still adding everyone and anyone who is doing good work with environmental literacy, environmental justice, environmental education, and all of these things to the Cali Partner Portal. So Celeste, do you want to say anything?
Sure. I can see that there on this particular slide, 186 community-based partners, and happy to say that in the last stretch since we started promoting it, that number is growing, and we're over 200 at this time. And so we're in an active promotion mode, trying to get educators to use the portal and access all of these incredible community-based partners who bring great services to school districts. So check out the portal.
Great. So if you're at a nonprofit or you know a local nonprofit that's trying to get connected or share their story or help people become aware of their services, please encourage them to register here in this free service searchable database so that teachers who are interested can find these amazing services. And I know we've got a couple of community partners on the call today. Check to see if you're already in this portal, and if not, please do add yourself.
And lastly, this is our second to last district innovation webinar for this particular inaugural spring season, but we do have one more on June 15th, where we will be showcasing a superintendent's perspective on leading for lasting change with Sean McFetridge from Porterville Unified School District and some of his district and county office of ed and community-based partner colleagues that have helped him recently win the Green Ribbon Award for his district. So still time to register for that. And with that, I think we've brought the formal section to a close.
Great. So let me stop sharing the screen.